Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Greg Krugen in Houston.
And I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas, and this is Texas, the issue is.
Our issue up for discussion, are Texas Democrats setting up another contentious primary season? The political family feud this time appears to be over who will be the party's nomination in the U.S. Senate race. It's a battle that could determine if Democrats will make a move toward the middle or will continue on its hard-left progressive path. I spoke to Round Rock Democrat James Talarico, who recently became the latest contender in what is now a three-horse race.
I firmly believe that all 30 million Texans deserve a U.S. Senator who's going to represent their interests and not the interests of billionaire mega donors.
Why do you think you're the guy that can clean it up?
This has been the fight I've been engaged in at the state capitol for 4 terms now, and I'm ready to take that fight to our nation's capital.
Why not support Colin Allred? He's already got name recognition out there. What's wrong with him, and why not just back him?
Well, I like Colin Allred a whole lot, and I was probably his most active surrogate in the last election. I'm not running against Colin or any other candidate. I am putting forward my track record, my experience, my skills, my values, my vision to the people of this state.
You are running against Colin Allred. What do you tell his supporters? Why come to your tent?
So I'm going to be barnstorming this entire state, showing the kind of campaigner that I am. You know, I originally got elected to the state house by flipping a Trump district that no one thought was winnable. They thought it was a lost cause, but I ran an aggressive, unconventional campaign that brought people together.
Terry Burtz, who's running against you for the nomination, posted on social media that your voting record disqualifies you. You're too far left. You can't bring in the moderate voters. How do you respond to that?
Well, again, I'm not interested in tearing down fellow Democrats, but my record speaks for itself.
What do you say to the voters who think that you're too extreme on issues like marijuana, gender issues in regards to sex change procedures, bathroom bills, things like that? What do you say to those voters?
Well, I think if they actually look at my record, they're going to see a lot they agree with, even on some of these controversial topics. You know, I'm not someone who likes to grandstand. I'm not someone who likes to ignore the nuances of these issues. I'm someone who digs into the details and tries to solve problems. You know, we can either play politics or we can solve problems. And I always try to choose the latter, even when it comes to some more controversial topics.
Are you going to make this campaign more about Washington, D.C. and Trump? Or do you think that rank and file Texans want to hear bread and butter issues, you know, tabletop issues, things like that?
Yeah, the whole reason I'm in politics is to make my neighbors' lives easier on a whole host of issues that we've already touched on: healthcare, education, housing, the cost of living. That's why I'm in this. I'm not interested in talking about Donald Trump or any other politician.
You fought against the school choice plans, the voucher plan, whatever we want to call it. Why not pick a different state race? Why not go for comptroller, where you could be the gatekeeper for this new school choice plan? Why not go small instead of trying to do a Hail Mary?
I like being bold and brave. I think that's the Texas way. And so this fight is national, and it's why I want to take what I've learned here in Texas at the state capitol, and I want to take that on behalf of Texans to our nation's capital in Washington, D.C.
If you do become the new Texas junior senator, how do you work with the current Texas junior senator, Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz and I disagree on a whole host of issues. We have deep disagreements on many fronts, but there's also areas where we agree. And I look forward to working with him if I'm elected to this position. I don't think Texans want their leaders to act like professional wrestlers. They want their leaders to seriously find common ground and work out policies that can make their lives better.
Yeah, unfortunately, politics is somewhat of a cage match, right, guys? My word for that interview in the coming primary, I'm going to have to use a hyphen. Sorry. Gut punch is my word. Stephen, what's your word?
Mine is another G word, gamble.
Greg, a G word. Give me a word.
Rudy, my word is redux, as in attempting to resurrect a Beto-like 2018 liberal groundswell.
Yeah, it reminds me also of Wendy Davis. We can talk about that a little bit later. And with that, the Texas trio will be back after this break to look at what could be a pivotal primary for Texas Democrats. Welcome back to Texas. The issue is we're talking about the Texas Democrat primary for U.S. Senate. That nomination is going to be a tough one. It currently has a three-way race with former Congressman Colin Allred, State House member James Talarico, and former astronaut Terry Virts. Stephen, with what are people in North Texas talking about? It's Allred's home turf. What are they saying about Talarico jumping in?
This is the home turf of Colin Allred. He did years ago now flip a red seat blue, but then last year he lost to Ted Cruz. And while he has raised his name profile and has some big backers and has a lot of money, the entry of James Talarico will be interesting to see how he responds. He hasn't directly commented about Talarico himself, saying that he's focused on defeating John Cornyn or Ken Paxton. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks for us to really see if this will just be a real showdown between Talarico and Allred, or the elephant in the room, will Beto O'Rourke throw his name in the hat again?
Yeah, and the other current number 3, Terry Virts, he's already taken off the gloves with a gut punch, by word, of a post. He said Talarico's past votes in the Texas House supporting things like gender identity are a non-starter with Texas voters. I kind of agree with that. Greg, I think that's the first uppercut in this larger fight over the future of the Democratic Party. What are you hearing in Houston?
Rudy, I'm hearing that despite his oratorical talent and highlight reel from floor fights in the Texas House, Talarico is still largely an unknown to the vast majority of Texans, and that includes Democrats. He's got 7 months to change that. Not a lot of time unless you have a mountain of cash. Talarico's voting record passes muster with the hyper-progressive Democrats in urban counties. But as you pointed out, Rudy, when it comes to a general, Republicans will hang many of those 80-20 positions around his neck and paint him as Beto 2018 wannabe, looking to take Texans' guns and reimpose every so-called woke policy Trump and company has dismantled. And then there's the fact that he's a white dude seeking a major nomination from a party that has, for multiple cycles, shown a distinct preference for folks of color at the top of the ticket. All of that said, if urban hyper-progressives in the major Texas counties dominate this primary as they have in recent past, Talarico has a shot.
Yeah, he kind of talks that bipartisan talk, but the votes are a problem. Talarico, though, repurposing his San Antonio rally recently to speak out against the political violence that's been happening, especially after the shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk in Utah. But political rhetoric has been running hot this summer, with ICE agents being called Nazis and fascists by political leaders in the Democratic circle, and people vandalizing Teslas. Stephen, are you seeing any signs of a cooler fall campaign? Or is Beto O'Rourke, which you mentioned earlier, is he going to really throw a monkey wrench into this?
I mean, James Talarico talking about flipping tables, Beto O'Rourke getting into this race with flip tables and turn this race upside down, in my opinion. When it comes to rhetoric and talking points, Texas Democrats have to realize that, to get the money, yeah, they have to make that national type of Democrat message. But to get the votes in Texas, you have to be in line with a different type of messaging, because Texas voters, especially voters that you're trying to pull over to your side, aren't really feeling the message that may be popular nationally. So we'll have to see what things look like in a month.
Yeah. Now, in a July poll, 3 out of 4 responding say they believe there is a serious threat to democracy. 90% of Democrats agreeing with that. The poll also noted that 44% of Democrats like their members. That means a lot more don't like their members in Congress. Greg, with such a bad political climate, has Talarico and the Texas Democrats miscalculated by not steering him to a safer race like the state comptroller that I brought up?
Well, Rudy, since no Democrat has won statewide since 1994, I'm not sure you can call any race a better bet for progressives. And given the shellacking Lone Star Democrats took in the 2024 presidential battle, I see no indication any progressive candidate is in striking distance. To answer your question, yes, Talarico is swinging for the fence when the wiser course may well be just trying to beat out an electoral single to build on. Now, that said, there's also the plan B. Given Talarico's relatively tender age, win or lose, he will come out of this primary with much better name ID for the race after the race, because this guy is hardly a one-and-done player. He's ambitious, and like a guy named Beto we've been talking about, he's got the bug for the big time. Rudy?
Yeah, maybe setting the stage for maybe a race later down the road. All right, Greg, take us to the next race.
Up next, Republicans are also setting up a down ballot card that may become a primary cage match in the Attorney General's race. We will talk to one of the GOP candidates who went from a front runner to swimming with the sharks. Stay with us. Welcome back. Ken Paxton's decision to seek a seat in the United States Senate has sparked a scramble among Texas Republicans to capture the coveted post of Texas Attorney General. Among the top contenders, Houston Republican Joan Huffman, a longtime heavyweight in the state Senate, who most recently pushed through a long-sought criminal bond reform measure while simultaneously steering the state's massive $335 billion budget. A former judge and prosecutor, Huffman's credentials are impressive, but like much of the field, hers is not a household name recognized across the Lone Star State. State Senator Joan Huffman, good to see you. Let's get straight to it. Why this office? Why now?
Well, Greg, as you know, this office has not opened up for quite a while. And so when I saw that Paxton was going to run for the U.S. Senate, I thought this was a great opportunity for me to use my background and to continue to, to serve Texas. Paxton has done a good job dealing with some of the big issues that Texans care about, like federal overreach, some of these woke corporations that have taken advantage of Texans, whether it was Google or with the opioid epidemic, some of the big pharma companies, and he's been aggressive at going after those folks, and it's certainly something that I would continue to do. And election fraud, good issues that he's gone after. But I'd really like to turn up the volume on the way that we protect Texans and how we work with law enforcement to make Texas better and a safer place for the people who live in Texas. I'm a former prosecutor, former criminal district court judge, and been in the state Senate since 2008. And that puts me in a very unique position because nobody in the history of Texas, no attorney general has ever gone into the office with that unique background.
You mentioned the issues of fentanyl trafficking,
yes,
human trafficking. You have been at the tip of the spear when it comes to legislation to attack those two plagues.
Sure. I've been working on this human trafficking issue for almost 15 years. All kinds of things about benefiting victims, stronger punishment, bringing awareness to the public and funding for that. So we've worked on that issue for a long time. On fentanyl, I've met with family members whose kids have, thought they were taking some recreational drug, as they call them, and died of fentanyl. It's heartbreaking. And it is really an epidemic out there, and it's still a problem. So last session, I made it a crime of murder if you deliver fentanyl to an individual who dies from it, even if you didn't know that, they were getting a lethal dose.
Senator, the Republican primary in this race is getting a little crowded.
Yes.
Why are you the best choice?
So I think I'm the most qualified. I'm going to stand on my qualifications and my background. And look, I have a record. I have taken over 14,000 votes in my years as a senator. I've passed almost 500 pieces of legislation, and people can look at my record. I'm not just a big talker. There's a lot of big talkers in this race who talk but don't really have a lot to show. People can look at my record and judge me from that.
You would be making history as well.
Yes.
If elected, you would be the first woman to hold the position of Texas Attorney General. Does that factor in, you think?
Well, I can say I hope so, if I was going to be honest. I don't think of it, I'm not running because I'm a woman, but I do think women bring, a unique perspective sometimes to problem solving. When I went to law school, I was working at night at the DA's office, where the police officers used to come in and sit the inmates down on the floor. So it'd be the police officer, the inmate, and me, and we're typing the indictment with the assistant DA in the other office coming in and saying what he wants on it. That's what I did. I get things done, and I will get things done for the people of Texas.
Okay, guys, Joan Huffman makes a compelling case, and she'll clearly be attractive to Republican women voters. But these GOP primaries often depend on courting the base, and Huffman, like fellow contenders Mays Middleton, Chip Roy, and Aaron Reitz, have to win what amounts to a 7-month popularity contest among conservatives. Rudy, what's your take on this battle?
You know, I think this primary battle has all the early signs pointing to a runoff. Early on, political tea leaves indicated that Huffman and Middleton were the leading contenders for a final face-off. But now with Congressman Chip Roy parachuting into this race, the GOP primary for Attorney General may be more like an old-fashioned demolition derby. Could be kind of fun to watch. Greg, Huffman's comment to you, your question saying there are some big talkers on the ballot. You know, for me, that sounded like a sideswipe at Chip Roy, right?
I can't disagree with that, Rudy. Stephen, Huffman on paper looks pretty impressive. Former prosecutor, former judge, and a powerful lawmaker who chaired finance, state affairs, jurisprudence, and redistricting. Ultimately, will that matter in a race with better-known competition like Dallas area Congressman Chip Roy?
I don't think so. And for this reason, we all know that these races sometimes come down to what that narrative is. And if she can't shake the narrative that's already been kind of labeled on her by some Republicans that she is the Democratic or liberal pick out of the crowded field, if she can't shake that narrative may be to her detriment, even though, like you mentioned on paper, she has the qualifications and she has the experience. And I will say that this puts Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick in a tough position as to, does he just stay out of it completely, or will he piss someone off by making an endorsement?
Yeah, no endorsement there yet. If elected, Huffman would be the first female attorney general in Texas. Rudy, in a crowded field, could that opportunity to make history play well with Republican women?
Oh, yeah, gaining a solid voting bloc could be a big factor in the primary, but Huffman also is carrying a big political albatross, and that albatross, that big bird, Ken Paxton. She voted not to convict Paxton on any of the impeachment charges. Now, from a prosecution perspective, the most notable count was how he retaliated against whistleblowers, which he later didn't contend to avoid a civil trial. The other potential problem with women voters for her, Paxton's divorce, which was filed on biblical grounds as a main reason for the breakup. So, yeah, two big birds that could cause a problem for Huffman.
All right, Stephen, what do you think? Could Huffman's bid to break a glass ceiling factor in this intramural battle of certified conservatives?
Well, the Republican Party is trying to continue to show ways that they are more inclusive. And so that could support her and help her, but she would need some big names to get behind her. And I think certain big names may be taking a seat, a sideline on this because they don't want to make mad some of their other friends who are also in this race. So I think what she needs is some big names backing her, but I don't know if those big names will show up. All right, guys. Well, we've got issues. It's my favorite segment. Not saying the other segments aren't good, but when we come back, we'll say what is really grinding our gears. All right, we are back. This segment is called We've Got Issues. My issue is with the Atlanta Falcons kicker. Week 1, playing a division rival, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Our new quarterback, Michael Penix, drives down the field, makes multiple key first downs. A 40-yard field goal in a dome is makeable. I know everyone's job is tough, but come on, man. How do you miss that? Now, the Falcons still could have lost in overtime, but how do you miss a 40-yard field goal in overtime? Whatever one of you guys want to take it away next. I'm just still upset about that a week later.
Okay, I'll pick it up. You know, my issue is how Governor Greg Abbott pulled out a trump card and kind of surprised everyone by issuing his executive order to kind of resolve the hemp products with THC debate, ending the debate, at least for now. So the big question and my issue is, how do we still get the horse back in front of the cart? And that horse being enforcement and testing. If we're going to stay with the status quo with the promise of tougher inspections and better testing, well, we're really going to need to get those rules in fast. And one of the big questions for me and the big issues for me is that, are we just going to let convenience stores continue to sell this stuff? Are we going to let grocery stores sell this stuff? Or are we going to push it into specialty stores? That is a big unresolved issue. What do you got, Greg?
All right, fellas, times they are a-changing. A near record number of Americans say they don't partake in alcoholic beverages at all. Seriously, nearly half the population has put the plug in the jug, and young people are leading the charge. When I was in college, teetotalers were a tiny minority. Now they are the sober majority. I don't know what's going on. Let's turn to Stephen. I didn't know anybody who didn't drink in the old days. What's going on with your generation?
Look, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy responsibly an old-fashioned or two. I think with the Rudy talking about THC and gummies, I mean, some young people are just moving to those types of, I don't want to use the word vices, but those types of things. And so they're not drinking, but they are getting enlightened in other ways.
But guys, they are drinking, but they're doing specialty drinks. They're going to coffee shops. That's their turf. You know, we always would go bar hopping, right? But their safe spots are these neat coffee shops and their specialty drinks. That's what they love. And you know what? If that's what they like and that makes them happy, go for it. I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. But something else along the same issue, Greg, that came out was this new poll that showed that younger men are interested in having families, and that's a top of priority for them, families and a good job, blah, blah, blah. Younger women having a family and kids, bottom priority. So there is a huge flip-flop in opinions out there.
Yeah, look
at the men getting mature.
It's healthy not to drink, but are they?
It is.
It's also fun. In times they are changing. Okay, that's all the time we have. You can see this interview or any of our past interviews by going to our YouTube pages.
And keep the conversation going by interacting with us on social media.
Well, it looks like we avoided special session 3, or did we? Maybe. That's a good question. Could be an emerging issue. But what we want you to know is what you think the issues are. So let us know, and we'll be back next week.